So you just used some words, and I think this is a great time to establish some culture words. So
Yeah.
And if you're going to do this, I would suggest, as you pray about it and ponder it, but I think 3 words are good, and I'm not going to even tell you the 3 words they need to be. I want us to say, like, vulnerability may not be the greatest word to put on of your 3 words.
On over the urinal?
Yes,
Yeah.
over the urinal. So,
I'll sign up for that.
yeah.
Open-heartedness and intimacy.
My QR code out.
Yeah.
With God, there is always more. More love, more life, more freedom. Welcome to Zoe's Exploring More with Michael Thompson. C.S. Lewis once wrote, "Our Heavenly Father has provided many delightful inns for us along our journey, but He takes great care to see that we do not mistake any of them for home." Join me and the team as we explore the kingdom together, discovering the deep truths and offering encouragement for the journey. There is always more.
Welcome, friends and allies, to the Exploring More podcast. Michael Thompson here, hanging out with S.J. Jennings and the Josh Overton on our team, teammates in the kingdom and for Zoe. And we are in the beginnings. This is episode 2, of what did we finally call this? How to do men's ministry?
Yeah. So you want to do
that? I think that was the better title.
Yeah.
We talked about that
Are
last
you sure?
week.
Yeah.
Are you sure?
Yeah,
Right.
it's that kind of like emoji, right?
And that tongue-in-cheek is a reality that we've experienced over the last couple decades. All 3 of us have been in missional and ministry spots, worn the hats of men's ministry, youth ministry for Josh, and now very much a part of the last several years of what Zoe is trying to do in creating environments and resources and relationships for men. And so this was I was going to say fun. This was an interesting and good exercise of our conversations kind of off camera, getting some scripts, getting some outlines. And just by way of review, that's kind of where we were last week was, are you sure you want to do this? It would be great if you did this. Be careful.
Yeah.
Be careful if you're going to do this.
Because I remember being all excited, and wound up, we're going to do this. And then, you just you take some hits along the way. So what we're hopeful to do maybe is to help guys, just be a little more aware of some of the challenges
of
that
what you're
can
getting
come along.
into.
Yeah.
And I like what you said. It's not if, but when you take, those hits. So, Anything else from a review or what we tried to bring forward before we take a break?
Well, and even kind of putting a bow into that, right? It was maybe, even in all our passion and excitement, maybe let's not go after our ministry first. Start with a band of brothers.
Let's go with after relationship being known.
That's right.
Yeah.
And that's really what last week's episode was about, was getting context. Right?
Mm-hmm.
What's the history of the men in your church, your community? What's the invitation been?
Yeah.
So getting intel on that will be helpful as you start drafting out your plans.
Are you starting from scratch? Are you taking over something?
Right.
Are those people that you're taking over from still
there
in that space? That
gets messy in a
remember
hurry.
We talked a little bit about house inspection. Having an inspection, and how that's what last week was about. Do you really have kind of all the data and intel? This is just not something you stroll into
or blunder
and that's
into.
part of the concerns that we have for guys,
Right.
and we want them to no, this is helmet and boots and weapon.
No doubt.
That and again, you're not, if they're image bearers, that's not your enemy, and yet we know that there's an enemy that has done plenty to also be at work in that culture, in that place. So the odds that there have been failed attempts at this in any church are high.
Really high.
Sure.
Yeah.
And so I like that, to remind you that missionally, what if this was more about friendship and connecting at that level rather than ministry.
Yeah, and so I know we got to go to the break here, man, but I was just thinking, like, are we muddy in the water or are we clear in the water? Because what happens is as we talk about some of these things, you go into it with all these expectations.
Yeah.
And yes, it's not just the people you run into, people that used to do men's ministry or guys that might be challenging to you or this or that can be hard and provoking, the enemy too. But bringing into the whole conversation of, okay, if that upsets you, that guy's behavior, or that nobody's showing up, or it's only one guy, what is it in your own story that's being provoked, and what buttons are being pushed, and how do we get rid of the buttons, right? So I never really pieced together the idea that working in ministry is not just the product of the ministry, but it's also working in you.
A place.
It's designed for you to be honed,
Yeah.
to be sanded, to be refined, to be healed, to be freed from things, because it will provoke things in you.
Yeah. So don't avoid it because it's hard.
Yeah.
Necessarily, that we've talked about in the first episode. But if you're going to go into it, understand.
No, it's hard.
That there's a difficulty, a challenge to do it, and it will provoke things in us as the coordinators, facilitators, guides, or leaders, that it's important that those things be provoked, and the dynamic of working that out in friendship and brotherhood. A lot of it just collapses before you even get to that point, because as soon as somebody says or does something, quote, wrong, or not in the expectational way that you wanted, it gets to be easier to not do it anymore. And that's what we've seen over and over again is wonderful attempts, challenges come, and here's another failed attempt. So we'll be back, I think, for some hopefully encouraging steps, directions, and things that involve the talked about the why do this, but now
what
to step into the what. So what to do. All right, we'll be right back on the Exploring More podcast.
Hey, thanks so much for joining us on today's episode of the Explore More podcast, sponsored by Zoe Allies, our national network of boots on the ground men just like you who are fighting for the hearts of others, committed to friendship and mission. My name is Josh Overton. I get the privilege of being the director of Zoe Allies. And as you've been listening through these episodes, I really hope, number one, that it's been encouraging, that it's been insightful. Maybe it's been provoking in some ways. And one of the things that I hope has been provoking is if you're listening to this and you're interested in starting a group, pursuing community, fighting for the hearts of other men, well, I want to invite you to join us for our Zoe Allies Roundtable on December the 10th, hosted on Zoom. So this will be an online space for you to connect as a potential new Zoe Ally with existing Zoe Allies, as well as myself, Michael, and SJ. So just hop on over to zoe.org/allies and register right there for the roundtable. Now we're going to start at 8 o'clock, but I want to invite you to join us at 7:30 if you can for the pre-show, which will give us just another chance and more time really to connect, get to know one another, hear some of your story. We'll be doing some giveaways as well, so that at 8 o'clock we can kind of jump right into the meeting, in which you can expect hearing what Zoe offers you, the tools, the equipment, the resources, the friendship, the network that we can provide if you are looking to start a group, start a men's ministry, start an initiative, right, to fight for the hearts of others. You'll get that, and then you'll also get some next steps. So if you have any questions, just email me at allies@zoe.org, and you can sign up at zoe.org/allies for our roundtable on December the 10th. Now back to your regularly scheduled program.
Welcome back to the Exploring More podcast and the mission for the hearts of men. This is our second episode and talking about the what in this session. So, man, where do we want to go? Where's a good place to jump into when we think about the what? I got
Yeah, we all have 17
things.
I just have this, I just want to say this, and then maybe we can just riff off of it, right? So when we talk about starting a men's ministry, a men's group, you brought up relationship and making that the focus. And I immediately in my mind went to a couple of different things. First of all, it's a core desire of ours to be known, right? I mean, it's one of our core questions. Do you see me? Do you love what you see? Do you want to be with me, right? So even as the leader of a group of men, I have those questions too. And I want them to be answered. So the goal, I think, with men's ministry moves towards the way I would describe it is intimacy, right? So my wife knows me. I'm very intimate with my wife, in all the ways that husband and wives are, but also emotionally. I'm more open to her. My heart's more open to her than anyone else. My desire is to be that way with God, right? To be open and intimate with him, or to recognize the fact that I'm open and intimate with him. He knows everything about me anyway, right? But he's so kind to kind of let me catch up to him in what I want to share with him. If that's the goal of men's ministry, then I think one thing that makes it hard is that intimacy, right? So trying to establish relationships between yourself and other men between each other in your group, the challenge comes in when you really start doing that, right? It's easy. We've seen men's group meet for years and years all over. I've been part of them. They come together once a week, every other week, whatever it is. We're going through the book of Ephesians. We go through the book of Ephesians. We turn around and leave again. And that's not a bad thing, but I think that's not hard either, right? And so what can make, one of the things, and I know we covered kind of the hard last week, but as we begin a conversation about culture, I think it's important to focus again on what are we after when we enter into these spaces and these environments, and recognizing again, opening my heart to somebody, especially if I'm kind of just getting to know them, that's really hard.
It's a challenge.
And how they handle it when I do can provoke me or inspire me or make me say, I'm done, I'm out.
Yeah, and I think that's just not just you, but you represent a certain part of the population who's going to be a little more guarded, a little more reserved. There's another guy that when the opportunity presents itself, like, yeah. I mean, he's going to tell that, he's going to tell the group, he's going to tell that guy, going to tell that guy.
And that's the challenge,
so
right?
that is part of, and we get it, the desperation of being known, getting in the way of his even ability to even have that somewhat more balanced with other men there. And so anyway, I think it's a great place to explore for sure, out of the gate back into, that's kind of like who's going to show up, but what are you offering? And before you swing, I would say, one thing that came to mind, are you offering a class?
Right.
Is this about the material? Is that most important? Is this about the book that you love and read? And we've written some books that we love and want guys to read.
And again, that's not a bad
thing. But we've said all along.
But those are safer waters.
The book is
to sail.
The book is to facilitate.
Mm-hmm.
I think what you're saying. What if the book or resources was to facilitate connecting with other men and knowing how fragile that is and how strong that can actually be. But you don't see many posters up in the foyers or the hallway, thinking of Southbrook, or at the urinal, about hey, come connect with other men. It usually is more driven by a resource.
What you're going through.
Yes,
right?
and the material. And I think that's something that there's a both and, but which is the horse and which is the cart? Yeah. As you're asking and proposing, what are you really offering those men? And this goes back to session one. What have they been being offered? And yeah, so I think of, I don't think we said it last time, but is it in the what, be clear in what you're offering. And we would be advocates for offering friendship and connection, that, hey, we're going to go on this trip together. Here's the brochure. Here's the resource. And we think that's good, but that is to facilitate.
That's right.
So, bringing homework or bringing what you've read that's for the other guys. That's show and tell. That's the show and tell.
Mm-hmm.
And when you can have show and tell with 4 or 5 or even 40 guys broken down into some manageable groups, your contribution, that's how guys are getting to know you. And we see it all the time, where it's just interesting how we will want to share the theology of something rather than why that means something to me. A story.
Right.
A story is different than giving 5 other guys the chance to teach also.
Right.
So, the rules of Fight Club really matter in terms of what are you establishing, and what is that, what does the what look like when we get together. So
when I'm thinking, even from episode 1, really what we're inviting you to do is, or what we're not saying is don't do it. But what we are saying is, let's reverse engineer a little bit, right? So when I think of vision, it's your preferred future, it's where you're headed, it's where you want to take guys, right? That's the map, that's the painting on the wall. And I've always seen culture as the wall that the vision hangs on. So the painting, if you had it rolled up on the corner of the floor, it's not going anywhere. No one's seeing it, no one can obtain it. You've got to have that framework. You've got to have that wall that the vision hangs on. And so all that to say, where you want to go, back to, if vulnerability is your goal, and we're saying it should be, if friendship is your goal, well, then you've got to structure the culture of your group, of your ministry, of your class, whatever that is, to fit that. And so one of the questions we talked about discussing in this was, what kind of culture do you want to create for the men? That's why going back to reverse engineering, that's why going back, starting with some context, the history, the invitation, all that's important. But maybe on the other side of the coin is, now where do you want to take them? Because you're going to structure, hey man, an 8-week class might not get you the result that you're after. Right?
Yeah, that's a great point, man.
And we'll get into environments and the content that they go through. We'll get to that. That's more next week. But I think it does matter. Like, it is critical to the end in mind. You got to have the end in mind.
No doubt, man. So, and as you're saying that too, I'm just envisioning, like, come start. This is a brand new men's group. Come join me, and I'm going to lead you through intimacy, vulnerability, and opening your heart. Like, I would not lead with that. Sure. Right? I mean, I know that that's where we're going.
Right. Right.
And that's the hopeful future. I like how you said that.
Yeah.
But, being wise is important too. And in knowing your guys and knowing your audience, you're just, if this is a bunch of new recruits, all right, let's get them all uniforms. Let's buzz their heads, right? Get them all and get moving in the same direction. So, and then start establishing the direction where we're going.
So you just used some words, and I think this is a great time to establish some culture words. So, and if you're going to do this, I would suggest, as you pray about it and ponder it, but I think 3 words are good. And I'm not going to even tell you the 3 words they need to be. I want us to say, like, vulnerability may not be the greatest word to put on of your 3 words.
Over the urinal?
Yes, over the urinal. So,
I'll sign up for that.
Yeah.
Open-heartedness and intimacy.
But I think there are some words that are, more than just kind of cultural buzzwords, but I think as you get to define this, what are you inviting them to? So what are the 3 words that would describe what you're inviting them into, and maybe even why? Yeah. But I think that, certainly on the high on my list would be connection.
Sure.
I would say
Yeah, and you could even
brotherhood,
say camaraderie
connecting,
is the one that came.
camaraderie, good word. What are some
Spell
other?
it though.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
don't know if I can spell it.
yeah.
That's good though. Yeah.
Exploration.
Right.
um,
Discovery.
Yep.
Adventure.
Yep. Adventure, discovery,
Frontier.
team. Yeah. Frontier.
Brotherhood.
Being a part of a team. I mean, these are other ways that there are other words. You know, hey, if we're gonna journey like this over time, because you know you do want to, I think in the what you do, and then we're going to talk some more about how you do it, but there has to be it's going to be either a gradual ascent or a gradual descent, and I don't care which one, but you can't do that in the first 2 or 3 meetings.
No.
You know,
Might not be able to do it in the first 2 or 3 months.
maybe.
You know, it just depends on the guys.
And I think that's all part of what I like what you're saying. What are you inviting them into? And could be a little bit of what do you long for? What do you want? But then can you use a thesaurus? Can you find the kind of words? I mean, I'm looking at, you know, of more, initiation, intimacy. I mean, on our big table over here, training, validation, initiation. You know, these are all, I think, words that land on masculine hearts with, I like that. These are our 3 objectives. These are the 3, our motto. You know, what's our motto?
Yeah, I wouldn't use vulnerability, intimacy, and open-heartedness, right? But I would say brotherhood, camaraderie, and adventure or exploration.
That's great.
Because
that's what I'm asking.
Exactly. Then that's so I'm answering. You know, and use those if you want to, but we know, right? As the leader of the group, that's the direction we really want to go in.
Yeah.
You know, and maybe some guys that you're gathering, like I said, they're fresh recruits. They have no idea what they're getting into.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's workshop that for a second, right? So if we're starting a men's ministry, a men's group, a men's initiative, and we know we want vulnerability, we want trust, we want
Trust, good word.
companionship, right? We know there's some of our objectives, right? So now to go back to use your word, discovery, if I'm leading with that, if I'm inviting you with that, that's on the urinal. And then when you show up and the first several weeks is your story,
Yeah.
you see how that
Yeah.
that invites that, right? It invites that. If you're using this book study or even the Bible study, I'm going to show up and expect to go through this chapter, to go through this verse. Not a bad thing, but is that going to get you the result that you're wanting for the culture, right? Is kind of how I'm saying it. And so I just think back to adventure, same thing. Like adventure, to use that word. And then you start setting up invitations around the fire. You know, back in Montana, right, we had free time. Those guys were in small groups for the event, but then they got to be in Montana. They got to go hiking. They got to go sit around the fire, go fly fishing. And so all those things play to setting the expectation, because that is what we used to invite them in. It helped breed that culture. It helped them answer the question, what to expect.
Yeah, that's good.
You know what I mean? Which, if I know what to expect and I come expectant, then I come ready to step into it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
We were talking about it this weekend. One of the guys wrote, you know, I have no expectations coming into this weekend. I do not believe you for a second, bro.
Never.
You always have expectations.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think culture really helps you squelch some of that and present. So back to, we know this. You say this all the time. Words matter. Partner versus God using you. We had that conversation with a guy over the weekend. And I say, this is not just semantics.
Yeah.
It matters.
They do.
Because it sets the position of your heart and how you enter.
That's why I wanted to talk about it and say that those words bring definition and invitation, you know, to the environment that you're going to, you know, eventually, you know, they're going to show up, and then how you cover that. But I think of I just wanted to add a couple more words: courage, or encouragement. That's a great word for. And then as you define it, strength. You know, these are things that men want to be, and so I think they're important that they're the words that bring the beginning of definition and invitation to the men in that circle. And we know this, that, the poster's going to matter. The flyer's going to matter. The email might matter. When you start to, what are we inviting you to? Why are we inviting you to this? We all know the statistics of, the isolation, masculinity, and how that has been a way the enemy has kept men down. So, the invitation to connect, the invitation to honor, the invitation to friendship. This is why and what are right there. So the first two episodes of why we talked about last week and what it is, and then I think more and more we'll get to this next session on 3. But I think that just is really important for the guy who is going to try to persuade his pastor, persuade the men's ministry guy, if he's going that direction, that, hey, I would really like this for me. I don't think there's anything wrong with saying that. I would really like this for me, and I think there's some other men here who might also want that. Could I do this, please?
Mm-hmm.
Would I have your blessing? Could I have your permission? I'd like to explore this. Or, even going in with the questions to that authority figure. Been listening to these guys on a podcast about men's ministry. I'm just curious, man, what's gone on here, and how's it been arranged, or, what is your view and vision? That might be the safer place to start, because if he says, well, we really don't do that here,
Right.
You got your answers, well, okay, thanks. Now you're off campus.
Right.
If you want to do this.
Sure.
God just brought a story back to my mind that I hadn't thought about in a long time, and I hadn't really thought about it in this context either. So when I was got invited to Top Gun and just decided, hey man, I'm going to start bringing guys back, and started doing that, and went and had that conversation, I never asked the question that you just proposed.
Just start doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, is it cool if I just start meeting with these guys? Because these guys are at Zoe are doing this and that and the other thing. And it's really, bringing some things up in my heart and, all of that. You mind if I just start meeting with guys? And the pastor was like, no, I don't mind. What I found out about a year later was there was some stuff already going on. And because I just came in, guns a-blazing, and didn't consider that there was anything else going on, because I never saw it and I never got invited to it.
Yeah, it's a big church.
And because it was a big church, but if I had asked, I might have been.
Yeah.
So there was this whole section of group of men at the church that would not engage with what I was doing. They weren't interested in my invitations and all of that. And it come to find out, it's because, they had been doing some stuff for quite a long time. And I didn't consider that at all. Yeah, man. So, sorry about that, dudes. But I think as we land the plane on this one, if we can focus on our listening guide in the context of a men's group, giving permission to be honest, heard, and known, and just your thoughts on that as we are circling the airport on this episode. We've touched on it a little bit, the desire for that, but what does that look like?
Go ahead, yeah.
Or do you want to wait and
No,
talk
no.
about that in the how?
No, go ahead.
Well, okay, so I think I shared this last week, but I think not just for me, I use it in the context of my age and being in circles with older men, right? But I think it applies across the board. Most men in teaching situations, which, back to expectation, small groups, men's ministries, church, whatever, we come in with the expectation that I'm showing up and you're teaching me something. You're talking to me.
Right.
So in the masculine context, I think a lot of us are used to the expectation is, I'm not talking much, I'm listening. I'm not talking much, you're talking to me.
Mm.
And so what does it look like back to culture to go after creating a safe space for men, every man, to feel comfortable to share?
Yeah.
And I can't not think about Advance Weekend we had 21 guys, 7 guides. So 21 men, 7 guides, 7 groups. And the number one thing these guides were trained on was the listening guide.
Mm-hmm.
How to engage a man's story. I mean, down to eye contact, right? Eye contact, heart posture, and really how to lean in and ask questions versus offer advice.
Mm-hmm.
And so hitting some of those markers, I think, are pretty key for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But that back to culture, that's why you got to gather this information and intel, reverse engineer from the beginning.
Right.
Because you as a leader, a facilitator, you've got to be willing to step into that as well.
Yeah, that's good. I'm going to give a little bit of an interpretation of that.
Yep.
So if you're a guy who wants to teach something, I wouldn't say this is the best way for you to go.
Mm-hmm.
I would go to the Sunday school guy and say, hey, I'd like to teach a class. And nothing wrong with that. You may know some wonderful and incredible insights into Proverbs or Psalms or one of the Gospels. And you just need a lectern. You're just looking for that place. So to your point,
It's great.
You'll probably attract a few of those guys if you put up the poster or have the invitation out, and that'll be really an opportunity to have the conversation outside of the conversation that says, hey, here's what we're trying to do.
Yeah.
And here's our words. And SJ, I just know, you've got a lot to offer. And when you take 2 or 3 turns in the circle, this is getting into it, but this is the reality of when you take 2 or 3 turns, then Josh and Andy, they typically then just don't. And so, and if we're going to get to know one another, because that's one of our objectives, then I would love for you to share not what everybody else should be doing, but rather how does this look in your life? So you're going to
coaching that
like
way.
You're coaching 6th graders, or you're coaching, in some case, PhD theologians. How are you going to get them all playing the same sport, so to speak? And if you can bring clarity and definition to what that sport is and how to play it, then I think you're going to be much better off bringing people into those lanes, So, and I get it, man. All of a sudden, this thing that you're trying to offer, it's going to be either decorated by you or tainted by you, and hopefully more decorative. And so, some guys love to play worship music, or they want a guitar there. They want to have a worship guy, at this thing. All that stuff, matters. I think when we get to how to do it, if you can define the why it's important to you, and what you're going to be, now we can, set up the how. But I really want to just say, as we wrap up, none of this planning and it makes it foolproof, makes it immune, makes it undestructible. It doesn't, because
it does give you a heading,
direction.
And we haven't even talked about how many times that thing's going to be hijacked or
altered,
attempted to be hijacked.
The compass goes wonky.
Right. You got to know where you got to keep your heading. Nothing wrong with that at all, man.
So let's wrap it and say so much more to come. Final thoughts.
Final thoughts would be, what we're proposing is that this is as much for you as it is for the men that you're trying to gather.
That's good.
Yeah. That's been my experience, honestly.
And I think when I think of culture, the number one thing culture does that it helps protect, that it creates, is consistency. And I'm not talking about doing the repetition, same thing every single time you come together. But I mean, if you're back to our words, discovery, exploration, adventure, love, brotherhood, trust, having a culture that supports that consistent things grow. You need consistency in that. And so it's as important as the passion you feel to go do this.
Mm-hmm.
It's just as important.
Yeah. I'll just go back to if it's about teaching, then I would consider calling it a class, making it a class. I think that's not what we're talking about. And so I would offer the title or the mantle to the point man as either a facilitator, coordinator, maybe the chief guide, something other than teaching and leading, something other than those things.
Yeah.
Are you leading the men's ministry? No, I'm kind of the coordinator. I'm kind of the main guide. Those are just cultural things. We want to know who's the leader, who's the teacher, right? And I think we're already saying this is different than that. Yeah. And so, and the guys that you bring, invite into that space. That's to define. We'll talk about that next. But to define that, because from the poster, we've talked about a bunch of homework and a bunch of pre-work and a bunch of exploration you're doing to create the poster or the ask or the invitation, and setting up this next session. Next, we're going to talk about, all right, 4 guys just came in the door, maybe 40, maybe 140. How do you do this?
Now what?
And if you get 2, you got
that's a great encouragement.
Plenty of men to journey with, and enter into this challenging, yet very, very, I think, rewarding and an important relational environment where friendship might actually happen. So we're going to talk more about that next time on the Exploring More podcast. You have a wrap?
Yeah, dude, I need to mention December the 10th. We're gonna have a Zoom call. If you are an ally, we'd love to have you on that already, Zoe Ally. If you are interested in starting a group, an initiative, you want to start a conversation around a fire pit, please sign up for this. Go to zoe.org/allies. That's December the 10th, 8 o'clock. We'll have a Zoom call to take all this and move
further.
Forward.
Yeah, move it forward, move it further. We'll see you next time on the Exploring More podcast.
We hope you have enjoyed this episode of Exploring More. The landing page for this podcast is zoe.org/podcast. That's ZOWEH.org/podcast, where you can find the show notes and various platforms to which we broadcast. You can also find us and the Life of More by visiting Zoe on YouVersion Bible app, Right Now Media, our Facebook page, and Zoe on Instagram and Twitter. Remember, with God there is always more, and you were made for more.